My name is Camila Solis. I'm 27, I have a literature degree I never use, a resume that looks like it was written by AI, and a permanent collection of bruises on my legs and arms from constantly walking into things, because yes, I'm that special kind of clumsy who can trip over her own feet even while sitting down. 3 months ago I landed a good job, not the one of my dreams, but it's pretty decent, and more than one person would kill to have it, junior editor at a tiny publishing house in the city. But it came with the rent of my nightmares, $1,200 for a studio apartment with no window. Then this ad popped up, 2-story house, small town 30 minutes away by car, rent ridiculously cheap, I thought. Camila, if you want to be a responsible adult you have to act like one. And that's how I ended up, one Friday afternoon in Northwold with my husky Kefir. Yes, Kefir, like the dairy drink, because he's white and as hyper as the insides of a lactose-intolerant person after chugging a full glass, and 4 cardboard boxes labelled fragile, one of which I still managed to drop down the stairs on day 1. The house was classic suburban, pitched roof, warm colours, and a porch so cosy it felt like it was waiting for someone to come home. Medium small, a little old but sturdy, with a tiny balcony overlooking the river, a kitchen sporting 1970s tiles, and a backyard that must have been gorgeous sometime last century. It was perfect, or at least perfect for a family of 4. Living alone in a whole house didn't feel that weird to me, though. My parents worked crazy hours when I was a teenager, so I spent a lot of time by myself in the apartment where I grew up. Over the years, I became immune to that hollow feeling most people get when they rattle around in a space bigger than they need. Plus, the price and the location were impossible to beat. Except for one tiny huge detail, the neighbours swore that little blue corner house cried every Thursday. Local gossip, I figured. At first it made me hesitate. I'm not the type to believe every ghost story that comes my way, but you know what? After reading enough fantasy novels, you start thinking twice before renting the old half-abandoned house on the block. Still, those thoughts aren't very responsible adult, so after asking the owner, an elderly man who apparently was related to the previous tenants, 1,000 questions, and making sure Kefir wasn't barking at empty corners or bolting out the door because his superdog senses had detected something creepy straight out of a horror movie, I signed the contract and started moving in. Aside from the rumours, the house definitely had its own dramas. A faucet that sang opera every time I turned on the hot water, a door that closed by itself, and a kitchen outlet that threw sparks like it was trying to start its own nightclub. I needed a handyman, fast. I called the number the lady at the little corner store had given me. Mateo Repairs, I fix everything except broken hearts, showed up the very next day. It was my first Wednesday in town and my bosses at the publishing house were surprisingly cool when I explained the whole "I just rented a slightly haunted house that's falling apart" situation, so they let me make up the hours later. He rolled up in a red pickup plastered with rock band stickers and loaded with tools that looked like medieval torture devices. 29 years old, tanned white guy, jet black hair, 2-day stubble, green eyes, somewhere around 6 feet, wearing a tight flannel shirt, arms that looked like they'd been lifting engines since middle school, and a crooked half-smile that said "I'm in charge here," but politely. He took one look at the outside of the house, noticed the weathered facade, let out a low whistle, turned those green eyes on me, and with that same mischievous half-smile said,
"So, is the house possessed or just spoiled rotten?"
he asked while Kefir sniffed the tires of his truck and promptly peed on them. "Just spoiled," I answered. As I opened the door and motioned for him to come in, I tripped over the rug, classic me. But this time I didn't face plant because Mateo caught my arm just before I kissed the floor.
"Careful, boss lady. I only fix things. People aren't my specialty."
Once I was upright again, cheeks on fire, I showed him, without saying much, everything that needed fixing, trying to pretend the whole stumble had never happened. He spent the next 3 hours patching stuff up, humming 80s rock and chuckling every time I tried to help and ended up dropping something. Whenever that happened, he'd just grin and say,
"Don't worry, I'll fix it. No extra charge."
One repair and the next we ended up talking about town traditions and beliefs. Turns out the rumor about the house crying wasn't some spooky ghost story. It was just a local legend that says memories somehow get soaked into walls after decades of living. So I told him about the whole "the house cries on Thursdays" thing, and he let out a huge laugh.
"Are people seriously still telling that one? My grandpa used to trot it out to impress the city girls who came through town. Sure, in a way houses are more than bricks and wood. I work on them every day, I get it. They're places that were loved, and what the owners felt for them does show up in the building somehow. But that doesn't mean they're alive or that they feel anything. That's all the legend is, just a pretty metaphor, nothing to take literally.
Left me his number, in case the house gets rebellious again, and a weird flutter in my stomach that definitely wasn't hunger. The rest of the day I spent floating on a cloud, and while walking Kefir I kept letting the leash slip through my fingers because I was too busy daydreaming about the house and about what Matteo had said. And then came my first Thursday in the house. That morning nothing felt off. I'd actually woken up half expecting to open my eyes and see something strange, but everything was painfully normal. I got up, made breakfast for me and for Kefir, got ready for work, and on the way to the office dropped him off at doggy daycare. I hated the idea of my fluffball spending the whole day alone. After another perfectly ordinary, slightly boring day at work and picking up my dog, I got home. And the outside of the house just felt different. Somehow the blue of the facade looked deeper, more intense. It wasn't raining, yet the windows looked wet as if someone had sprayed them with a hose. When I stepped inside, everything had a bluish-grey tint, kind of sad, and I started feeling that same heaviness settle over me. In my shock, or maybe just my usual clumsiness, I dropped Kefir's leash. He trotted in ahead of me, no excited leaps or spins, and flopped straight onto the couch, which was super weird because even after a full day at daycare he's usually a bundle of energy. Still, the moment he curled up there, the gloom lifted a little. With my beloved ball of fur on the sofa, the walls looked a shade less grey and a touch brighter. I didn't freak out, but it did strike me as strange. Maybe my brain was just making things up after all the stories I'd heard about the house. The second I flicked on the lights, the sadness vanished completely, like nothing had ever happened. That weekend I decided to take a walk through the little town park nearby, also the place where I'd previously spilled coffee all over my laptop and lost my car keys. While I was heading toward the cute cafe that serves hot drinks and pastries, it started pouring. I slipped in the mud and Kefir dragged me almost a full block. I burst into the cafe soaked to the bone, hair plastered to my face, holding one shoe, while my little rascal gave me that classic "Who me?" look. And there he was, tall, slim, a bit pale, messy brown hair that couldn't decide what it wanted to be, thin-rimmed glasses, and a black t-shirt that read "Monsters Fall in Love Too." Stared at me like he knew me from somewhere. After a couple of seconds of confusion, and then realizing the absolute disaster I was, he awkwardly hurried over from behind the counter with a fistful of napkins and a dry towel. He offered to take my umbrella and pulled out a chair for me at one of the little tables. Very chivalrous, but with this shy edge that instantly melted me. Plus, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd seen this guy before. After I cleaned up the mess I'd made at the entrance, he brought me a coffee and some pastries. One sip and I discovered that the best coffee in town was served in that tiny place called The Last Page, which only opened about 4 hours a day. Kefir sat hypnotized, staring out the window at the pigeons like they were putting on a private show just for him. After a couple of minutes of awkward silence filled with shy glances, the barista finally broke the ice and solved the mystery of why he looked so familiar.
Camila Solis, Pine Hill Elementary, class of 2008. You were in the grade below me.
Just like that it clicked, Eli Montclair. He must be 28 by now. We went to primary school together ages ago. What an insane coincidence that after all these years we'd end up in the same little town. Though to be fair, it's not like Northwood is on the other side of the world. Just a 5-hour drive from where I grew up, we started talking. I learned he teaches literature part-time at the local high school, works weekend shifts as a barista, and while he prepared me another latte that tasted like heaven, confessed that in his spare time he's a writer.
Not poetry.
He clarified, as if he'd read my mind.
Mostly horror shorts and dark romance. My stories usually end with someone bleeding or kissing in the rain, sometimes both.
He let out a shy little laugh like he was a bit embarrassed to have admitted that. When his shift ended, he sat down with me. Kefir, that absolute traitor, immediately abandoned his pigeon soap opera, trotted over, and flopped at Eli's feet. We talked for 3 solid hours. He told me he'd been working for 2 years on a novel about a woman who falls in love with the ghost living in her basement. I told him my ex dumped me because I argued too much about books. Smiled like that was the sexiest thing anyone had ever said. When we stepped outside, the rain had stopped. He walked me to the corner, carrying my broken umbrella and making sure I didn't slip while Kefir tried to drag me down the street again. When we reached the front of the blue house I'd rented, Eli stopped dead. I told him this was where I was living now, and surprise flickered across his face.
You know the story.
he asked quietly. One about the Thursday tears. Yeah, though I'm pretty sure it's just small-town folklore for tourists. Stared at the misty windows.
It's not a myth, it's nostalgia. This house has been empty since I can remember. People say it cries because it misses the sound of a family. I think it's just tired of being alone.
Went quiet for a second, then added,
Houses don't talk, Camila, but sometimes they breathe.
Kiefer let out a playful bark that shattered the moment. We both laughed when Eli said goodbye with a soft,
See you tomorrow, same cafe.
something inside me shifted very slowly. That night after hunting for my car keys and, of course, finding them in the freezer again, I glanced out the back window. It struck me as odd. It should have been wet or at least fogged up from the rain, but while the whole garden and sidewalk were soaked, the pane was completely dry. In fact, looking through it, the outside somehow felt warmer than it had any right to be. A wave of warmth washed over me out of nowhere. I shook my head and blamed it on the lovely afternoon I'd spent with Eli. A week went by, Thursday came again. And for the first time, at least according to the stories, the blue house didn't cry.